12 o'clock lunch hour of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show is brought to us by Kaulig Racing, the official NASCAR team of Northeast Ohio. And this interview with London Fletcher is brought to us by Lincoln Electric. Now hiring for great jobs. They are experts in the manufacturing and welding field. Check them out at Lincoln Electric. And with that, Cleveland native, should be Hall of Famer, London Fletcher. How you doing, sir?
Yeah,
I'm doing great. What's going on, guys?
Hey, London. DeQuell Jackson is a good friend of ours. We love DeQuell, and he was like, oh, London's the best. You're going to love talking to him.
Yeah. DeQuell sent me a text about you guys. He said you guys are awesome to talk with.
Well, we appreciate that, London. Your story is really amazing. Obviously, I'm sure most of our fans know. Of course, you're a Cleveland guy, and you played Division III football. And as somebody that didn't play Division III football, but I did 8 years of play-by-play in Division III football in upstate New York, I have an affinity for Division III. Unlike in other sports, baseball and basketball, where you see Division III players make the professional leagues, in the NFL, it's unheard of for a Division III. It's very rare for a Division III player to play in the NFL, let alone have a remarkable long career in a sport that averages 3 years per player. You played for 16 years, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
And you never missed any time. Did you always believe, London, from the time you were in high school, from the time you played at John Carroll, did you believe that you were an NFL player? And how did no Division I schools go after you? I don't understand.
Well, you know what? I actually thought I was going to be an NBA player. I was a high school basketball player mainly. In high school, you only played 1 year high school football. Had Division I basketball offers. Had a few Division I football offers as well. Had Bowling Green. I want to say Miami of Ohio. Bowling Green recruited me in both football and basketball. Michigan and Ohio State both asked me to come in as a preferred walk-on down to their respective schools. But I was dead set on playing, college basketball, and I took a Division I basketball scholarship to St. Francis in PA, St. Francis, PA.
Yeah.
Was up there for about a year and a half, and then decided to transfer to the Division III school with John Carroll. Needed to be closer to home. You don't have to sit out any games if you go from a Division I to a Division III. So that was appealing to me. I ended up, obviously playing well and dominating at the Division III level, and I guess they could say, the rest is history.
Yeah.
Amazing. London, nowadays it's so crazy because now everybody says, linebackers don't count. Linebackers, you get a linebacker week, day 2, day 3. They're not getting big contracts anymore, the linebackers.
Some of them weigh 215.
Yeah, some of them are the size of cornerbacks now. What would you say the emphasis in how important linebackers are? Because there's this thought process out here now that all you need is a couple defensive tackles. You could put a couple stiffs at linebacker, you all right. Like in your mind, what is this thing? How does this thing moving right now?
Well, I would say that's the NFL. The way the game is now, you see more the spread game, emphasis on being able to cover, especially at the linebacker position. You'll see converted safeties now playing linebacker. You see guys that, used to be where middle linebackers used to be 250, 240 pounds. You mentioned being 220, 225. There's more of an emphasis on athleticism as opposed to being big run stopping type of linebackers now. But I will say this, they're extremely important, especially in the middle of that field when you have some of the tight ends like a guy Cleveland native like Travis Kelce and some of these elite tight ends that you have to deal with. You have to have somebody who's big enough to stop them or go against them, in coverage, and also athletic enough to stay with them, from a speed standpoint. I don't think it's you still have to have excellent linebackers. You just can't throw a stiff out there and expect to win games. You still need some guys who can play football.
London, you got to look at the Browns last year in the game against the Commanders. Wondering what you thought defensively of them and the moves that they've made this offseason.
Going into that game, I do the play-by-play for the Commanders. So not play-by-play, the color commentary on the radio for the Commanders. So I looked at the Browns defense, and obviously Myles Garrett had a tremendous season. Thought Denzel Ward, he's one of the best man-to-man cover corners in the NFL, and he had a really good game against us. Linebacker wise, I would say defensive tackle was one of the areas that I thought the Browns were kind of lacking. I felt like we'd be able to run the ball. What's that?
That's being kind.
You nice. You nice for that.
That's a compliment to what we were saying about those tackles all year
against the Browns, but it's hard to run the football when you throw an interception. So,
yeah.
Maybe we should have ran it a little bit more, but the Browns definitely need to shore up that interior defensive line and also the linebacker core. And I saw they went out and signed the tackle from the Minnesota Vikings. I'm sure they'll look to add a couple more pieces in the draft and free agency to get that middle of that defense shored up.
London, I just wanted to go back to your career for a minute because you're third all-time in games played by a linebacker, first all-time in consecutive games played by a linebacker. How many times did you go out there on Sunday or Monday or whatever it was where you think a lot of other guys wouldn't have played? Because you had to be hurt at times in your career and you were just tough enough or whatever it was to play through it. I mean, did you come close to missing games at any point? Or were you just fortunate and you stayed you were healthy enough to go?
No, when you play the position that I played, it's a physical position. It's physically demanding. Once you step foot on the NFL field, you're never going to be 100%. I went into plenty of games where I could have easily sat out of those games, whether it's some of the injuries. I had a couple bad knee sprains, whether it's MCL sprains or I had also a little torn meniscus, which I still have yet to get surgery on, but also a couple really bad sprained ankles. The closest, actually, I had a hamstring injury I can remember in Buffalo, and this was the first time where I was like a game time decision in my career. I don't know what, I think it was 2004 if I'm not mistaken. I don't know how many consecutive games I had played up until that point, but at that time I was cognizant of it. So it was a situation where, hey, your game time decision. And I can remember driving to the stadium, kind of almost in tears because for the first time I was like, man, I don't think I'm going to be able to play. Mm-hmm. I was unsure if I'd be able to play. Wasn't able to do much in practice. So they worked me out in pregame, kind of see if I can go. So I tell my linebacker coach, I was playing all three downs, first, second, third down. I told the linebacker coach, hey, I can play. I can give you first and second down. I feel like I'd be able to, hold up in the run down, so to speak. And I'd let the other two linebackers, Takeo Spikes and Angelo Crowell, let those guys play, nickel. Well, Takeo ended up tearing his Achilles early in that game. So now, and we're playing the Falcons with Michael Vick back then, and I was like, oh shoot, I got to play the rest of the game.
You picked a great game for a hamstring.
Guy, right? I can remember one time, Vick escapes the pocket, and I'm like, shoot, I got this bad hamstring. The only thing that kept me from getting embarrassed was he had a little tweak in his hamstring too, so I was able to kind of push him out of bounds, and he wasn't able to go full bore either. So, we both kind of took it easy on each other.
London, make your case for the Hall of Fame because, see, sometimes, man, very humble people like yourself, guys that, just, you look like a guy that came to work, you do your thing in your career, you never was a rah-rah guy, you was never looking at me. But I'm going to be honest with you, you got a Hall of Fame, career under your belt. Do you know that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's as I look at the Hall of Fame, and it's something that I would love to be a part of. I know more than, I'm more than deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. When you look at what I was able to accomplish from a number standpoint, any metric you want to look at, I'm there. The only thing that people can knock me on is I don't have as many Pro Bowls and all pros, but those things are so like popularity based and things like that. When you look at my numbers against guys who were making the All Pros or the Pro Bowls over me in those years, you'd be like, man, I got 4. I should have had probably 10 or 12 Pro Bowls in my career and multiple All Pros. And, it's a situation where I've done my work. My case has already been made from a standpoint of on the field, not just up to the voters. You got a couple voters there in Cleveland that can help me out. So they need to be voting for me. I made the semifinals this year and didn't get beyond that, but I'm definitely worthy of being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we just showed a graphic of your numbers compared to Ray Lewis. You guys basically
Toe-to-toe.
have identical numbers. It's amazing.
Identical resume.
Yeah, I mean, it was
and
some of the
when you look
categories
at
are
it-
exactly the same.
Yeah, and when you look at it, Ray is arguably the greatest middle linebacker to ever play in the NFL, and there's only one guy that you can put up there side by side whose numbers rival Ray's. So
Yeah.
he's the first ballot considered by many as being the greatest middle linebacker in the National Football League. You only can compare one other person to him, and that's me from a number standpoint. But if he was first ballot considered the greatest to ever do it, and the guy that you can compare, statistically with him, I think I wasn't first ballot, but hell, I should be in there by now.
Hopefully at some point that
It is the new goal of this show to get London Fletcher.
London
Yes.
Fletcher to the Hall
London,
of
we will
Fame.
do everything in our power. If we
Yeah.
start campaigning, I'll start
That's
walking
right.
the streets of Cleveland with picket signs. You will be a Hall of Famer, mark our words.
But London, you mentioned there are 2 Hall of Fame voters here in Cleveland. You're right, Mary Kay Cabot and Tony Grossi. Have you gotten any feedback from the committee or from the Hall of Fame on why you haven't been in yet?
No, I haven't. I'll say this. I've talked to a couple voters, and it's a process. I will say this: it's a tough deal, tough situation, tough job that the voters have, because you're looking at trying to. I think they start with over 100, modern era candidates, and you're trying to bring that down to 5 players. And when you look at the National Football League, or you look at football in general, it's the ultimate team sport, and you rely so much on each other to perform at a high level. And then now you're saying, hey, let's only take 5 individuals each year out of this great game where there's been over 20-something thousand players who've played, and there's currently only, I think, less than 400 players in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I don't think there's enough players in the Pro Football Hall of Fame when you look at how reliant you are on your teammates and on each other to accomplish anything, whether you're quarterback and needing the offensive lineman to block well for you, or running back, you need the offensive line to block well for you, receivers to catch the ball, linebackers to make tackles to allow that 3rd and 10 situation for that defensive end to be able to rush the passer. So it's a tough job, and I understand that process, but it's about me being able to – I need to be able to get into that finalist list where the Jared Bell, who represents Washington, will be able to make my case to the voters, and not just Jared Bell, other guys and other voters who have gone against or seen me play in my career at extensive places. So it's about getting to that next phase, and that happens at the finalist list.
I don't understand. I never understood why they cap it at 5 guys per year. Like in baseball, it could be 1 guy 1 year, could be 10. It never really happens that way, but it could be as many. Like, why should there be a limit on how many guys get in? They should vote on all the guys, and if 13 guys get in 1 year, so be it. I don't know why you have to have only a certain
I don't
amount.
know that it's actually really capped at 5, or maybe I guess you could have ties, so to speak. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's I don't know if they just don't want the classes to be too big, and but it's definitely, you saw where they tried to.
Nope, London froze up.
Give
Whether
him a-
there's-
Oh, there he is.
He's back, yep.
Yeah, there's been guys that have tried to take care of the backlog, where there's been guys who played in the 40s, 50s, 60s who were long overdue. You see at the 100-year anniversary of the NFL, they put in a bunch more players, and they've started to add. It used to be just one, senior committee member, and now I think they're either 2 or 3 that they're taking. So they understand that there's a backlog and there needs to be more players in there, but it's just difficult to say, hey, only 5 a year of the modern era players.
London, you seem to come up a couple times in rumors throughout your career of a possible link to the Browns. Was it ever close? Did you ever have an opportunity? They were pretty much an absolute tire fire when you played, but did you ever have an opportunity to come back? Is there anything that ever interested you?
The only time that I knew that the Browns were interested in me, it had interest in me, was when I left the St. Louis Rams after the 2001 season, and I became a free agent, and I was scheduled to visit the Buffalo Bills, the Detroit Lions, and then also the Pittsburgh Steelers initially. And I went to Buffalo first and agreed to a deal with the Bills. The Browns had called after I had already agreed to the deal, and my agent didn't even tell me about the Browns' interest until I had already, signed the deal. So
because he didn't want you to go there.
It's one of those things where I guess he felt like we gave them your word, and so the Browns came in. They were a little too late to the party, so to speak. But I mean, I grew up a diehard Browns fan. I definitely would have had a lot of interest of playing in my hometown. So I guess things worked out the way they were supposed to work out. But I would have loved for the Browns to be in the mix right from the beginning when I became a free agent in St. Louis.
Who was your idols, your favorite players when you were growing up?
With the Browns, man, loved Hanford Dixon, Ozzie Newsome. Who didn't love Bernie Kosar, Wesley Slaughter? You got Kevin Mack, Ernest Biner, had Clay Matthews. Man, Big Daddy Harrison. When I said I was a diehard Browns fan, I was a diehard Browns fan. Loved Eric Turner, the late Eric Turner. He was just phenomenal. Frank Minifield, man. I just love those teams. Non-Browns players, Eric Dickerson and Mike Singletary were guys that I really enjoyed and kind of wanted to emulate. Eddie Johnson, and he was a linebacker there, the assassin. So yeah, I had a lot of guys that I loved that played for the Browns.
London, I know you said you played basketball and your dream was to play, basketball. You're listed at 5'10", 245. What was the scouting report of London Fletcher, the basketball player? Because that's my personal nightmare to play against.
Well, in high school, I was listed at about 6 feet and like 190. I got short and wider as I got older, I guess. But I was an explosive player. Could jump. Could really attack the basket. Could knock down threes. My senior year, I was more of a scorer than a shooter, I would say. I played on state championship teams at St. Joe's, Villa Angela St. Joe's. But yeah, extremely good defender. I would say they would probably say, hey, let him shoot from outside, but don't let him get to his right hand because he's going to attack the basket, and I love attacking the basket. And I had some skills.
Have you ever played with DeQuell? Because DeQuell seems to be a pretty darn good player too.
I have not. I have not played with him in basketball.
I'll tell you what. We're going to be having a competition there between DeQuell is playing our own Mikey McNuggets, who played Division III. Speaking of Division III, he played Division III basketball.
I got a question from the hotline. They want me to ask, as a native Clevelander, which do you miss the most, corned beef or Polish boy?
I would say Polish boy, and the reason I say Polish boy, it's easier to get corned beef in different places. Mm-hmm. Like I go to New York a lot, so you can get corned beef there in different places. Now they may not necessarily be the size like you get in Cleveland, but you can get some good corned beef in some places. And I've had multiple people come from Cleveland, they'll bring me corned beef from Slyman's and or Vienna. Vienna's. They'll bring me corned beef from there, just bring it down. But that Polish boy, man, and when you try to tell people about that Polish boy, it's just, I don't know if they really understand. My wife used to make it for me a lot when we first got married, just to give me a taste of home. You know what? I may have her hook me up a Polish boy today.
And when you say Polish boy, you notice he said dat Polish boy. That's a DAT Polish boy. It ain't like you got to say it that way or it don't hit the same.
Oh yeah. But when you describe it to somebody who's not from Cleveland, you can just, you tell them about the coleslaw and the French fries and the sauce on it. You can tell they're just like, man, that doesn't seem good. It's like, dude, you do not know what you're missing.
Trust me, dog. You know you don't know what you're missing.
How often do you get back, London? Do you get back here this way very often?
I get back a couple times a year. Yeah, at least a couple times a year. We'll, I'm sure I don't have anything scheduled yet in terms of when I'll be back in Cleveland, but I'm sure I'll be back at least once this year. I like to be able to golf when I come there, so weather plays a part too. So I don't come to Cleveland in the cold weather.
No.
You got about another
we
month
don't blame
before.
you. We don't. Yeah.
got
Well, it's
about
supposed to be
another
really
month.
nice this week. It's supposed to be in the 70s this week. In terms of Washington, obviously they like the Browns. The Browns traded for Deshaun Watson, and we're hoping that after he only played 6 games last year, that finally he'll end this long drought of bad quarterbacks. Well, I mean, it's been the same in Washington. You guys have not had a good quarterback there in forever. What are the prospects for this year? I know you drafted a kid last year, and
Jacoby Brissett.
they got Jacoby Brissett. I know who did, but he's not the long-term answer there, obviously. It's Sam Howell, right? So
Sam Howell, yes.
Sam Howell.
Yeah.
So I mean, what do you think about him? I know he hasn't, at this point he hasn't played, but is he the answer, or do you think they're going to have to dive into the draft again?
Sam's going to get the first crack at it to be the starter, and he was a 5th-round draft pick last year.
Yeah.
If he would have been able to come out after his sophomore year at Carolina, he would have been a day one, first-round draft pick, 2nd-round draft pick at worst because of the numbers that he put up. His junior year didn't have quite the same type of season. He lost a lot of guys who end up going to the NFL off that team, but Sam is a tremendous talent, can run. He's about 6'1", so that's one of the knocks on him. He got a chance to sit and learn the pro game his entire year last year, and then he made his only start of the season, only NFL action, the very last game of the season against the Dallas Cowboys, and he played great. Actually led us to an upset of the Dallas Cowboys. He very first pass in the NFL went for a touchdown to Terry McLaurin,
Right.
An Ohio State guy.
Yeah.
So Sam showed a lot in that game, ran for a touchdown, made plays with his legs, and they would love for Sam to win that job coming out of camp. Obviously, they signed Jacoby Brissett as a guy who can, who's a capable backup, who can be a starter for you. This is a situation where, Ron Rivera and Coach Rivera, he understands they need to win this year. There's going to be an ownership change, and new owners come in, and if you're not making the playoffs, then this is Ron's 4th year, so he understands what's at stake. But I feel really good about the quarterbacks that we have on our roster.
And Washington, you mentioned Terry McLaurin, who's a Buckeye, who's been a really good player there. You got 2 nice young backs there. I mean, it's actually a really pretty good skill position group. So if the quarterback's any good, he's certainly got the talent around him. I think it's an underrated skill position group in Washington, but we haven't really noticed him as much because the quarterback play hasn't been great.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the 2 running backs. Antonio Gibson's, he's a dynamic back. He can catch it out of the backfield, run the ball. Brian Robinson Jr., who was a rookie last year, overcame getting shot in the preseason.
Wow,
and
crazy.
ended up just playing extremely good football for us. Jahan Dotson was a rookie out of Penn State. I know you guys up in that Big Ten area know about him.
Yep.
He torched Ohio State in some ball games. And then Curtis Samuel, another Buckeye at the receiver corps. We have talent at the skill position, as you mentioned, just about having a quarterback to to get the ball to them. And then also we needed to get the offensive line a lot better. And that has been an emphasis in free agency so far, and I'm sure it'll continue to be addressed in the draft.
What do you think about it was a big story this offseason. Eric Bieniemy has not gotten the opportunity to be a head coach. We've talked about this a lot, that we feel like he's been treated unfairly, not getting an opportunity when other guys have. He felt like he had to leave Kansas City to get out, I guess, from under Andy Reid's shadow. We know Ron Rivera is not an offensive, Eric Bieniemy is going to be running the offense there. What do you think about his situation and his opportunity to maybe prove himself out from Andy Reid in Washington?
Well, you look at, the situation that Bieniemy faced, or the criticism, so to speak, that he was, having to deal with when he was the offensive coordinator in Kansas City, and it was, hey, you don't call the plays. Well, Matt Nagy didn't really call the plays as the offensive coordinator in Kansas City. Frank Wright didn't call the plays in Kansas City, but those guys both got their opportunities to become head coaches. And there's been other guys, whether it's the Cincinnati Bengals head coach, Zach Taylor,
right.
When he was with the Rams, he didn't call the plays there. It's just Kevin O'Connell didn't call the plays. Sean McVay was the play caller, but it seemed like the goal line was always being constantly moved for Eric Bieniemy, especially it seems like for African American coaches, the goal line is constantly being moved, and we have to, adhere to a different set of standards. And I'm hopeful that Eric is able to lead this offense, and they have a tremendous amount of success. And there's no question who's calling the plays, and he's able to finally land a head coaching job.
London, we appreciate it, man. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.